Up everybody, this is John with John Fair Innovations, bringing you more League of Legends Worlds 2021 content. We have had absolutely amazing tournaments so far. This has been one of, if not the best play-ins I have ever seen. Some great upsets, some great drama. DFM, of course, making history for the LJL and making it to the group stage for the very first time, not only in the organization's history, but in the region's history. So congratulations to them. Amazing job. Well done with them. Of course, LNG looking extremely strong and looking very likely to be potentially getting out of groups and making a run like Suning did last year. So congratulations to them. And of course, now we have the final day of play-ins. We have the two knockout games. We have the second seed of Group A, Harm of Life, taking on the third seed of Beyond Gaming, where Beyond Gaming had to run the gauntlet, and they actually amazingly came back from a 2-0 deficit to do the reverse sweep to get to this spot. And of course, in our second best of 5, we have Cloud9, the second seed of Group B, taking on the third seed of Group A. My boys from Oceania Peace, they continue to overperform and continue to be amazing, and it is so great to see as an Oceanic fan. OS will not be silenced. Now, I'm going to go a quick breakthrough of every lane and my prediction on the series. So firstly, we have Harm of Life versus Beyond Gaming. We've got Morgan and Liang on the top lane. I give it to Morgan. Morgan gets memed a lot as being not a very good top laner, but you got to remember he's getting compared to LPL and LCK top laners. He's not getting compared to, top laners from the other regions like the LEC, the NA, PCS, for example. He's getting compared to players like Khan, Nuguri, Ale, Xiaohu, Keen. For those of you who haven't seen much of the LCK, he is a freakish top laner and he is absolutely insane. So the point I'm making is that Morgan isn't bad per se. It's just you've got to also take when people say he's bad with a grain of salt, because he's getting compared to, and he has to play against very, very tough competition that you wouldn't see in the top lane in other regions. So keep that in mind with Morgan. And as we saw this tournament so far, he was able to pop off on the Aatrox. He had a really good Camille game. And I think he's going to be too much for Liang. Liang's had a bit of an up and down tournament so far. He missed the first game. Not sure why PK was in there instead. Liang came in. He's had some alright performances. He had some bad performances. The only game where you really felt he really popped off was his Tahm Kench game. But yeah, I see this going in Morgan's favor. Next up, of course, we have the jungle. We have Willa versus Husha. Again, I gave this to Willa. I think Willa has had a very stable performance in the jungle. I think he has gone quite alright. He even had a game against Tarzan where you didn't feel like he got blown up by Tarzan. So Willa clearly showing that he is a very capable jungler. His Talia looks very strong, and I can see them prioritizing that because it gives so much objective control with Talia's ultimate, and objective control, especially early Dragon Souls, seem to be priority this play-ins. Husha, again, just like all of Beyond Gaming, seem to have a very up and down tournament so far. So I'm going to give that one to Willa. Next up, of course, we have Chovy, and I've got a question mark there next to the Beyond Gaming mid laner because Mowen has been suspended, and I'm not sure whether that suspension starts right now, whether it starts during this tournament or if it begins after this tournament. But as it stands, so I'm not 100% sure who Beyond Gaming will be playing in the mid lane. I don't see it being significant against Chovy. Like, if you were telling me that Beyond Gaming gets to have Showmaker or Doinby for a game there, then, you could seriously have a question about this. But let's be honest, whoever they put there is going to get Chovy. Like, Chovy's going to win lane. We all know it. He's going to win lane. He might even get some solo kills. Chovy the best laner on the planet, and I don't see Beyond Gaming having any sort of player that's going to be able to come in immediately. Whether even if it was Mao, and to be honest, I would have the exact same mentality that I would just think Chovy is going to be way too strong this series. And I also think in a best of 5, Harmer Life now is going to really make sure Chovy is looked after in draft, and we can see a lot more of Church of Chovy. Chovy's first day was a little bit underwhelming for his standards, but his second day, obviously, he was able to pop off, and we really got to see those crazy CS numbers. So I expect Chovy to win regardless of whoever they put in there. Next up, we have the ADC role. We have Deft and Doggo. Now, Doggo is the only Beyond Game player that makes this list, and it is probably a fair representation of Beyond Gaming's tournament so far. This team is Doggo or bust. It feels like it's Doggo versus the world, Doggo 1v9. And yeah, the only reason why Beyond Gaming have enough wins to be able to be playing in this best of 5 is because of Doggo being absolutely insane. He has definitely been the best ADC in the play-in so far. Deft, I actually think, has had a really good play-in so far. He's had some unforced errors, which you would like to see tidied up. But overall, I actually think he was the best performing player for Harmer Life. Now, the reason why I've got Doggo ahead of him is not necessarily I think Deft has been playing bad. As I said, I think he's doing the best Harmer Life player so far. It's just more how absolutely insane Doggo has been this play-ins. And if Beyond Gaming are to win this series, it's going to be on the back of Doggo as per usual. Lastly, we have Vista versus Kino. I give this one to Vista. I think Vista has had a more consistent tournament than Kino. Kino has had a lot of ups and downs, and he's had a lot of games that have been really, really inty. And Vista, on the other hand, I think has been very consistent. He had a really great game on the Leona as well, so I think it's fair to have Vista ahead of Kino at this stage. As for the series itself, I think it's going to be Harmer Life 3-1. I think Harmer Life are a very underrated team. A lot of, you got some analysts thinking that they're not even going to make it out of groups. Out of play-ins. And yeah, they're very underrated. They do often feel like Chovy or bust, but I think they're going to be too strong at an individual level, and also they play the game very cleanly. And the fact that they were able to play the game they wanted to play against a team like LNG, a team that is leagues above a team where anything Beyond Gaming's played, any level Beyond Gaming's been at so far, I think it's fair to say that Harmer Life should be able to continue to play that style they want to, and just be able to, slowly build up the gold lead and then win that team fight and break open the game how they like to do. And as I said, I think I just have a feeling that Chovy's going to really pop off. So, Harmer Life 3-1. Next up, we have Cloud9 versus Peace. And this is actually a really dangerous game for C9. You got to think about the mentality going into this. On day 3 of play-ins, they literally only had to win one of their 2 games. They had a game against Unicorns of Love, who had not won a single game in the tournament so far, and their first and only win of the tournament was C9 in that game. Then, of course, you move on to Detonation Focus Me. Detonation Focus Me, off the back of having lost that really bad game against them the day before, or 2 days before, whatever it was, they were able to defeat C9, let's be honest, really comfortably. So C9 had 2 bites at the cherry and weren't able to qualify. So now you start to really panic a little bit if you're C9, or if you're a C9 fan, you start to worry, because now you go against Peace, who, let's be honest, Peace, if they lose this 3-0 in an hour, all their games are 20-minute stomps where they lose to C9 in all 3 games like that, is anyone really going to sit there and be like, wow, Peace is so bad. Oh my god. Like, no one's going to think any less of Peace regardless of how these games go. These could be 3 absolute stomps and no one's going to think of anything different of Peace. Peace have been performing amazing and everyone is so happy for them and the region to get this far so far. So Peace will be playing with complete freedom. If they, as I said, if they lose, they lose. No one's going to think any different. This should be a 3-0 for Cloud9. So, again, if they win that first game tonight, really start then to be worried if you're a Cloud9 fan because, you know, you start doubting. And we've seen Cloud9 choke. We saw them choke at MSI. We saw them choke in the LCS. We've seen them choke already in this tournament. They're starting to really fall under pressure in the games that truly matter. In the top lane, we've got Fudge versus Vizicsacsi. Vizicsacsi, obviously a substitute. He has done an admirable job given the situation. However, you definitely have to give this one to Fudge. I think Fudge has been the best player for C9 so far. Fudge absolutely terrorizing, and it's poetic that Fudge and C9 are going against Oceania as NA. You know, for a lot of Oceanic fans, we feel that NA, by buying all our talent, really, you know, destroyed our region a little bit. And Fudge is the epitome of that in the top lane for C9. So going up against Oceania and one Osh alumni, whether it's Peace or whether it's Fudge, is going to be eliminated in this series. I think Fudge, though, individually is a much better player than Vizicsacsi, and he has a much better champion pool, and certainly a champion pool that fits this meta a lot better than Vizicsacsi, so I'm going to give this one to Fudge. Next up, we have Blabber versus Babbitt. Blabber is very well known within NA regions. He is a very, very good jungler, and I think if you were to ask me this before the tournament started, I would say, you know, Blabber, hands down, I would think is better than Babbitt. But Blabber, just again, he's just having a weird tournament. We saw this at MSI. We of course saw him, you know, lose a game for C9, coin flipping a scuttle. And he's just, his decision making has been sometimes very questionable. Like, he was the Fed member on Olaf, I remember, in the game. And he just gets caught out literally just before a dragon. And, you know, you just can't do that if you're the jungler. And it just seems like Blabber keeps on having these same sort of mistakes. And Babbitt, on the other hand, Babbitt is playing out of his mind. I think he's been by far the best player for Peace so far, and Babbitt is carrying a lot of this team, and they're playing, you know, insane at the moment on the back of Babbitt and his champions like Lilia. And I can see a world where Babbitt continues that, and Blabber, you know, starts to feel the pressure, because this is a high pressure game for C9. This is all the pressure's on them. This is, as I said, Peace, if they go 0-3, no one's going to care, and no one's going to think anything less of them. Next up, we have, of course, the mid lane, and we see Perks taking on Tally. Tally, like Babbitt, is a, you know, you might remember him from last year with Legacy. Tally, I think, has had a pretty decent tournament, I would say. I think he's had some, shall we say, hypey moments. And of course that solo death against Chovy, where he still had flash, was not a very good look. But overall, outside of these like sloppy plays, I think he has played better than what you would have expected him to play before the tournament started. And you wouldn't say he is playing bad by any means. Perks, I think, I still give this to Perks. You might argue that his performances don't deserve it. But yeah, Perks, I think, is just fundamentally a better player than Tally. And I don't see it being any different. And while it might be high pressure game that might get to some of the other players, it feels like Perks is the type of player that relishes these high pressure games, and I can see him really popping off. So I see this giving it to Perks. I think his champion pool as well is obviously a lot deeper and a lot better than Tally's. Next up, we have ADC. We have Sven versus Violet. I am not a fan of Sven. Everyone hypes up Sven, but every time I see Sven, it feels like he's just always like underperforming. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm traumatized by his, the Ezreal, like getting caught out on Ezreal against Team Liquid that time when he was on TSM. It just seems like he always has these sort of moments where he's just like, he doesn't ever seem to win lane, and he doesn't ever seem to, win the game. But you can mention many times where you see him lose the game. And I think that's my problem with Sven, is that he's the type of player that won't win you games, but he is the type of player that will lose you games. And Violet, on the other hand, I think Violet is an amazing ADC. I don't necessarily think he's outperformed Sven this tournament, but I do see him outperforming Sven in this series. I think Violet is going to pop off. He's very mechanically gifted, and I expect him to actually dominate lane. I worry about C9's bot lane. I think this is where C9 could easily lose this series, is through the bot lane, and I think it would start with Violet. Next up, of course, that's a great transition to our supports, where we have Vulcan and Aladoric. Again, I'm not saying that I think Vulcan is a worse player than Aladoric. I just think Vulcan is not performing very well. Like, his Amumu game cost C9. Like, I don't know what he was thinking when he went back in there. Like, if that was your solo queue game, you'd all be reporting it. Like, that's how bad it was. It looked horrible. And I honestly, the reason why I've got Violet and Aladoric ahead of Sven and Vulcan is because I think this lane is going to go in favor of Peace this series. I think I can see Violet and Aladoric really taking it to Sven. I expect them to be able to get some 2v2 wins. And I think Babbitt also is going to really affect the lane and punish the lane when Sven and Vulcan are stepping up too much, or whether they misplay within lane. And I can see, Peace really punishing that. As it stands, I've gone against Peace every single game so far, and every time I go against them, they win. So I want them to win, so I'm going for C9 to win 3-2. That way, I think this is going to be a very close series. I think it's going to be a very spicy series either way. I don't think either team's going to win 3-0. C9 should win 3-0, but I can see this definitely going to 5 games. If I pick C9, hopefully that means I get it wrong and Oceanic wins. If C9 obviously wins, then I get it right, so yay. But if I get it wrong, that's even better. That means I get to celebrate Osh winning, and that's what I really, really want. That's, of course, my Oceanic bias coming through. But there you have it. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Let me know what you think. Do you think I was right with this? Do you think it's wrong? Who do you think is going to win? Do you think it's going to be Harmer Life? Do you think it's Beyond Gaming? Do you think it's C9? Or do you think Peace is making it out? But always stay safe, be kind to one another, and I'll see you next time.